Hello, my name is Grant Michael, and this is my Capstone Part 10 project. So hello everyone, my name is Grant Michael, and today I will be presenting on pilot fatigue, focusing on local flight instructors like my mentor, Logan Clawwinder. Over 24 hours, I shadow Logan at Nationwide Aviation to observe how fatigue affects flight instruction. Fatigue in aviation is a serious safety issue because it affects the pilot's alertness, reaction times, and their decision-making abilities. As someone that's training to become a flight instructor and later down, I want to become a commercial pilot, this topic is very important to me. Fatigue doesn't just impact individual pilots, it also affects the safety of students, passengers, and the whole aviation community. Everyone that flies has to deal with fatigue at some point or another. From a Christian worldview, we are called to care for others and work with excellence. In Colossians 3:23, it says, "Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men." New International Version 2011. Today, I will be explaining why pilot fatigue is a critical safety concern, how my project helped me understand the issue firsthand, and how a biblical perspective guides my conclusions. Thesis. My thesis is that pilot fatigue among flight instructors is a serious and often overlooked safety risk that current FAA regulations do not fully address. Flight instructors frequently work very long hours with insufficient rest, which negatively impacts their alertness, decision-making, and communication skills. My instructor Logan told me about these specifically. This fatigue not only endangers the instructors themselves, but also the students they teach and the whole entire aviation community. Therefore, stronger fatigue management policies supported by a culture of safety and openness are necessary. These changes align with biblical principles of wisdom, care, and the responsibility to protect the lives of others. A good example, the other day, I had a flight at 6 a.m. and Logan texted me saying he got home around midnight and he was super tired when he woke up, said, "Hey, I'm sorry, but do you mind if we move it to later in the day?" And I work in the afternoon, but I was able to move it back later in the day because, he's being responsible, admitting that fatigue has taken a toll on him and saying it wouldn't be wise to go fly. Fatigue effects. Research has shown us that fatigue impairs your cognitive abilities that are critical for flying. According to the FAA's Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, or the PHAK, fatigue reduces alertness, slows your reaction times, and increases errors, FAA 2016. NASA research finds that being awake for 17 to 19 hours can impair performance as much as having a blood alcohol level of 0.05%. Dawson Reed, 1997. This is especially dangerous during long work days or multiple flight sessions. Many pilots and flight instructors work many long days, and they frequently work in conditions where they are affected the same as having 0.05% blood alcohol content. And on top of just your decision making and stuff being affected, you also might be falling asleep in the cabin, which that's obviously very bad. The National Transportation Safety Board links fatigue to many fatal accidents, including the accident of Colgan Air Flight 3407, where pilot fatigue reduces situational awareness and judgment during a critical approach, NTSB 2010. I've actually done a lot of research on that flight. The effects on fatigue. Fatigue slows down reaction times and reduces the pilot's focus, which can lead to poor decisions during critical moments of flight. It also affects communication by making pilots speak more slowly, repeat themselves, or lose patience. These changes increase the risk of misunderstandings between pilots, students, and crew, which can compromise safety. Understanding these effects helps pilots recognize when they are too tired, and they can take steps to stay alert, ensuring that clear and effective communication is being used in the cockpit. Communication and safety. Fatigue also affects how pilots communicate with students and crew. Dale Carnegie, in How to Win Friends and Influence People, stresses that effective communication requires patience and clarity, both of which are harder to maintain when you're tired. Carnegie, 2010. Flight instructors who are fatigued may speak slower, repeat instructions, or lose patience. Increasing safety risks. Having an instructor who isn't 100% fit to fly, like the example I gave earlier, can be super dangerous. And the student may not catch an error that the instructor makes, or may make a mistake and the instructor isn't ready and can't react in time to save them. From a biblical perspective, Proverbs 4:6 encourages us to not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. New International Version 2011. Managing fatigue wisely protects pilots, students, and others. Implementation. So for my implementation project, I spent over 24 hours with my flight instructor, Logan Clawweather, who has nearly 1,500 flight hours. I observed his schedule, his rest periods, and signs of fatigue. Throughout this period, I saw my students in the morning, the afternoon, and the night. I got to sit in during his lessons and grounds, and I also got to see firsthand the long terms of effect of fatigue across a whole entire day. Fatigue really builds up throughout the day, and especially in the brutal Texas heat where it's easily over 100 into the 110s, 120s, maybe even 130s inside the cockpit of the plane. And that makes the fatigue set in even faster and have more effect. I noticed he had slower reaction times, he needed to double check his tasks more often, and he relied on energy drinks during long days. I've never seen someone put down as many Monsters and Red Bulls in one day. He told me that he sometimes has to consciously slow down to maintain clear communication with his students. And this real-life observation matched my research. And despite the FAA having rules limiting flight hours, they are not substantial enough, and they often leave flight instructors, like Logan, to work long, stressful days and have insufficient rest for days on end, which leads to chronic fatigue. Solutions. There are tools like fatigue risk management systems that use data to help schedule rest and flights to reduce pilot fatigue. New technology can also predict when a pilot might get too tired and help adjust schedules ahead of time. NASA is also working on ways to monitor alertness and improve rest, but technology works best when organizations truly commit to safety and careful planning. Good planning helps protect lives and resources in aviation. Leadership. Leaders in aviation must put safety first, even if it means that they make less money or they have a more difficult time scheduling and have to, mix things up more. Ignoring pilot fatigue can cause accidents and is a failure of responsibility. Leaders should always be honest and fair, promoting open communication about fatigue. By doing this, they show care and respect for pilots and students, and they also set a good example for the whole aviation community. It really doesn't take a lot. We just need a few major airlines to emphasize the importance of pilot fatigue, and the rest of the aviation community can follow. My goal. As I pursue my career in aviation, I'm committed to prioritizing safety by managing fatigue responsibly. I plan to practice honest self-assessment and encourage open conversations about fatigue with fellow pilots and students I may have. In the past, I have done this if I went in for a flight and something bad might have happened that day, or I might have been very tired. I'll be honest, say, I don't feel 100%. Maybe we'll shorten the flight. We won't fly as far. Might do a different type of training lesson that day because it's just important to be safe. And above all, you have to put safety. I plan to practice honest self-assessment, like I said. And my goal is to help create a culture where rest is valued as much as flight hours. This personal commitment of mine aligns with my faith to care for others and lead with integrity throughout my aviation journey. Biblical integration. Managing pilot fatigue is not only important for safety, but it also reflects biblical principles. Proverbs 4:6 tells us to seek wisdom, which helps protect us from harm. Mark 12:31 commands us to love your neighbor as yourself, reminding us to care for others by ensuring they are safe and well-rested. John C. Maxwell emphasized that leaders must care for those they serve, showing compassion and fairness. Proverbs 11:1 tells us God values honesty and fairness, which should guide aviation policies. God himself rested after creation, Genesis 2:2-3. Showing rest is part of his design. Though fatigue is part of our fallen world, Romans 3:23, Jesus invites us to find rest in it, Matthew 11:28. Managing fatigue honors God by caring for the lives he has given us. Reflection. In conclusion, pilot fatigue among flight instructors is a serious safety risk that current regulations only partially address. Improved fatigue management policies supported by a culture of care and openness are necessary. Biblical principles guide this conclusion. Mark 12:31 commands us to love your neighbors as yourself, NIV 2011, which includes caring for the safety and well-being of others. Dale Carnegie teaches us that genuine appreciation and empathy build trust and cooperation. which are essential in aviation safety. As a future pilot and instructor, I commit to applying these lessons in my career, valuing wisdom, discipline, and care for others to promote safe skies. I have flown fatigued and even sick many times, and without an instructor, I would have had a really tough time. Sometimes you just need to accept that you are not in a good position to fly, and you need to speak up and make sure that the situation is handled appropriately. Call to action. Pilot fatigue is a critical safety issue that requires everyone's attention and action. We must support policies that guarantee adequate rest and encourage pilots and instructors to be honest about their fatigue without fear of judgment. Building a culture where safety and care come first aligns with our Christian calling to love and protect others. As Romans 13:10 reminds us, it is essential to prioritize safety over profit, or convenience, and to plan carefully for safer skies, following the wisdom of Proverbs 21:5. Together, by committing to these principles, we can create a safer and more compassionate aviation community. Thank you for listening. Here are my references. Thank you.